So I am going to quickly summarize the whole of this, the essentialized punchline to ethical maturity of which is one of the facets of the EG base, and the base for tantric practice or Vajrayana practice. And and then I want to spend the rest of the time focusing on three areas in which this like actually impacts our lives, and uh, open it up for everybody to discuss and share. So we'll probably um, spend a little bit of time in between each of those three sections, doing a little bit of reflection in silence, and then invite some discussion, to see what this actually means in practice. Uh, Ethical maturity particularly has some like it has some like provocative philosophical implications when you speak about it. And for it to be completely philosophical, I think it kind of really loses the actual spirit of what we're approaching here, because it's more of a way of relating to life and the way of relating to other people and institutions and culture and everything like that. And not being not falling into the armchair philosopher mode or something like that. So I want to keep it down to earth. One way of characterizing my favorite um, sutra, the Heart Sutra. There's three kind of statements in there. One of them is emptiness is form. I think another way of saying that really seems to uh, talk about ethical maturity in a way that's really helpful is that pattern is nebulous. So the implication is there's no code, no ultimate equation that we can figure out how to make all of our decisions and go through life. And so that leads to our definition of ethical maturity is that we are not subscribing to any kind of moral code or set of rules, because every situation is fresh and different, and no one fixed way of relating to things is going to work out every time.
I have a recent circumstance. I I do a lot of the kind of grievance stuff in my organization, and someone had made a complaint, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna bring care, but also kind of like integrity in terms of our processes. And I feel like a number of things happened when I actually spoke to this person. One, there was care and there was a sense of integrity, but like my idea about what they were going to be like was very different than what it actually felt like. They felt very like chaotic all over the place, like these horses that were pulling in different directions while I was in the conversation. But I thought I was like, oh yeah, I really did that. And then I got feedback from the person, and they were like, this was a what where did they use raggedy process, and I did not feel cared for. And I was like, well, fuck, I really thought that I had brought that.
Mm.
That person was having their own experience that is useful feedback for me. Neither my perspective nor their perspective is like the truth about what was going on. Um, and so, yeah, I feel like there's a distinction between this idea of the intention and then just like the energies that move through the interaction and the whole range of kind of meanings that we make out of it.
Where now I can kind of step back, like you said, and see more of their point of view too. But it doesn't necessarily also mean that they're going to see anything, any of my care, or anything that I intended may just be totally lost. And I'm pretty okay with that right now.
Mm.
Where in the past, I used to be really upset. It was like, well, how come they don't get me and I'm trying to get them and I'm trying to connect? Why aren't they doing the same thing?
Mm.
Now I just see it as, yeah, I guess this happens a lot.
One way of that I like to think about what how pat like what is pattern being nebulous? What does that mean? One way that's the most obvious for me is that it's changing. And so if you have a rigid way of relating to intention, which is like, this is what it means, I did the thing, and that is all is expected of me, then it kind of is not, it doesn't have the ability to adapt to circumstance. But yeah, if you're putting an intention out there and it is in relationship with something else, then all of a sudden it becomes unpredictable. It starts to change. It's a little bit less graspable, but more adaptable to the situation itself.
Maybe it doesn't matter. Jared, you can be like, this is off the rails, but like maybe it doesn't matter what thing we use to get in touch. Like, so maybe it's intention, and we use that to like get in touch. But then once we're in touch, everything is moving. And if we're like, nah, stop moving, I came in with this intention, then it becomes problematic. If we use something else to come in where it's like, I don't have an intention, and I don't know, maybe it's still an intention, but I'm just gonna receive. And once something makes contact, then I'm gonna be in relationship. Um, yeah, it feels like it requires less certainty about, is this the right intention? Am I sure it's my intention? All of that.
I was resonating what you were saying, Sandolo. And the thought that was popping up was I was thinking about, is it possible to not have an intention? Like even in thinking in terms of opening awareness, like being like, oh, dropping all intentions or dropping, like just dropping the ball. But that in itself is like, it feels like that's an intention too. Like you're holding that kind of intention. There's always some kind of intention there, it seems, even if we're not aware of it.
In relation to what you just said, Artem, I feel like there's a move of setting an intention and then forgetting about it, so that it's sort of almost like coasting on the impact of the time when the intention was formulated or set, like even like a ritual or a ceremony, I think. And so it's like planted deep in there, and then everything else sort of moves in consideration of the for some reason the word obstacle is coming up. So the intention almost acts as it's like negative space, which something cannot inhabit or cannot act in a certain way. And that feels a little bit like approximating no intention rather than actually being no intention. But at the same time, it feels like cleaner in a way, because it leaves room for new intentions to arise in relation to that initial, maybe primary intention. I like the phrase "set it and forget it," and I'll apply that to intentions as well.
Yeah, so it's like the difference between like an attitude, you know, setting it and then just showing up and being present and spontaneous, and having an agenda which you're hammering. I really liked what Sandolo said about kind of, it's just a kind of tool to get you in the moment or something, to get you involved.
Absolutely.
So it's really tied to what Chris just said.
Yeah, in relationship, I like that. So I didn't mention it in the beginning, but our three aspects of the base, they're correlated with form, energy, and emptiness. And ethical maturity is correlated with the energy sphere, and the energy sphere is all, being in connection with the context, with what everything that's coming up.
And thinking about what it means for this kind of stance towards ethics to be the base for what we're up to. And yeah, I for me, I think the stuff that we've been talking about of the like the world is obligated to do these things if I do the things that I'm obligated to do, or the gods have mistreated me or whatever, that there can be a really strong, the kind of going at and nebulizing ethics is actually I think it has some disproportionate effects in shaping other ways of being in the world. That like, I don't know, if EG had a like EG's approach to hopscotch, I feel like that would have less impact on a wider range of things in my life. And there's something about ethics of like, how should you deal with moral dilemmas? How should you deal with how to treat other people is such a core thing. And I'm curious for folks either who are new to practice on with Vajrayana or folks who've been in for a while, like how does having this approach to ethics uh, affect your practice, affect your ability to kind of like live with kind of the attitudes of Vajrayana?
To your point, Sandalo, I think that it's been really relieving to come across Vajrayana in juxtaposition with more sutric things, more sort of like good is good sort of ideas, because I already had a lot of like interest in this purity sort of ethical approach, and there were some ways in which I approached that were just like too much in terms of either isolating me or being impossible. And Vajrayana threw enough nebulosity into it that I could no longer hold some of these puritanical viewpoints, and that's nice because I don't necessarily get along with Puritans.